Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to the shop. A little bit of a diversion today. Got a couple of questions, and by that I mean hundreds, about panel planes. You have to know a couple of things about that. But anyway, I'm going to try to demonstrate a couple of features of panel raising plane. Wonderful colonial tool, and going to have a piece of wood that I'm going to prep and plane a beveled edge on, just so you can see it, just so maybe it'll help you understand what you're looking for if you're looking for an old plane, or how it was once done if you're trying to have a little bit of that hand working stuff under your belt. The point that you have to make throughout the whole thing, though, is the particular raised panel that I'm going to make is not incredibly unique to my community, but it's a ubiquitous panel edge for doors and walls and cupboard doors and things of that nature during the middle to end of the 18th century here in my community. I've therefore, in the process of doing restoration and preservation work on the buildings in my area, I've made a lot of them. I was lucky years ago to run into a guy up in Bath, Maine, who was making some planes, and he made some beautiful tools. Just a joy to look at, a joy to hold, and marvelous thing, they actually effing work. You're going to love this. There are still some that come up in the market. He's, I'm pretty sure, off to the big plane school in the sky. But some of his work is still around, and they come up in the market. 18th century panel raising planes fell out of use a couple of hundred years ago, and they've long since wandered off and gone to that, happy plane land, the Daisy Hill old plane farm. So there aren't many of them around. I've never run into one that was in working condition that I could buy and use. So I'm very pleased with this one. I wish I had bought one that did right-hand panels also, rather than just, you'll see what I mean when I go to make it. It's got a skew to the blade, and the skew, Leon made some that was skewed right and some that was skewed left, so you could work trapezoidal panels. I didn't get one of those, so I just got this one, and I suffer otherwise. Anyway, so I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'll get in and we'll tighten down to the intricacies of the tool. I've talked way too much already. Just watch. You'll love it. Okay, you've probably seen me do this a bunch of times before. Bear with me, because I'm going to do it again. I want to take a smooth plane to the surface. I've used my machine planer to size this piece of wood, and I don't want the machine planer marks showing, and I don't want to have to plane them out afterwards. I'm going to plane them out now. And I've got an old plane, thank you, Vernon, and I'm going to do a little quick surfacing, and hopefully it'll work out. This side is tearing because I'm planing in that direction, but that's actually a great thing for the plane, because when I plane, I'll be planing this way, which means it won't tear out, which will be good. All right, so a couple more passes. There's that. Okay, I've done it. Now, I've planed this thing I mentioned down. It's 11/16. It's going to, once I've beveled the edges, it's going to fit into a frame, and it's going to be just the right thickness, so the back will be flush with the plow in the frame, and the front will have that 18th century, New England 18th century panel edge. Let's go see what that looks like. Okay, so here's my setup. Got a block of wood, same thickness as the stock that I'm planing the panel out of, and I've got it set so that I can, as I run the plane across the end grain, because I have to do the end grain first, and you probably know this drill if you've been around, you know. To plane the end grain, I need to plane it first so that when I tear out at the edge of the board, I'll be able to clean that tear out up when I run with the grain. That's, you know that trick. You do the same thing with your router. So I've got a block set here, and I've got another clamp on this side holding the board so it doesn't slide back and forth. And this is my setup. I'm now going to plane this edge. I'll bring it a little bit tighter. You can see the action. Okay, and now this is all on the pretense that it's actually going to work. So here we go. Slice right across. Now this is a crucial moment. I just touched the edge of the face with the bevel, and that's the corner of the blade. Bring it down a little bit different shot. Little teeny bit of chip. Just to make everyone's life a little bit easier, I'm going to pass a bit of sandpaper across that edge just to break those feathers. There we go. This will make a lot more sense when we get on to the next one, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Now, you can't tell, but I'm down on the stop on the side of the plane. It's not going to cut down any further, no matter what. So what I'm doing now is on every successive pass, I'm going to tip it a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more, pivoting on the side that's not going to cut anymore. And that will create the precise angle of from here to here in 11/16 of an inch. And you probably hear lighter and lighter passes because I'm not planing here anymore. I'm just planing at the edge. Okay, that hurt. And almost. Feeling a little bit thick here, kind of thin there. This is bouncing a bit. I'm going to do that. Done there, not quite there. I see what's going on. I'm in the wrong place. I've got to move all of this stuff just a little bit. I'm hitting the edge of the bench. All right. Better be able to come down now. Yeah. That's it. Call that good. All right. Now, turn it around and do the other side. And this one will come with a little bit. Now you've seen it. Hopefully when you see the underside of all of this, it'll make more sense. Now in different parts of the country, at different periods in our architectural history, the actual design and form of the panel plane has changed. The design and the form of the panel has changed. But for me, in my town, for a good long time, this is what they all look like. And that's obviously the tool that I have. So here's what I got. This is a skewed iron, and making sure that it's in frame. Let's try that again. All right, here, this is what I've got. This is a skewed iron, and that allows me to cut through the end grain. It slices through that. You can see with a skewed iron, if I were going on a panel that was rising from the right to the left, it would be dug into the grain. It wouldn't work at all. Hence, that I wish I had the matching set with the blade skewed the other way. This cut a little deep of a shoulder to match my historic work, so I put a brass shim on, drove some screws in, and this worked out fine. It will probably outlast me. There is no grain slicing bit that comes through. On many tools, particularly in the 19th century, they put little slitting tools in, cut a teeny little mortise, and slide a knife blade through that would slice the grain and keep it so you didn't have that tear out that I have. This doesn't have that. I don't really miss it. This edge right here I keep pretty sharp. Sometimes it needs to be sharpened, but right at the moment it's good enough for what I'm doing. But it does a pretty fair job. It doesn't, as you can imagine, jump in that whole 1/4 of an inch all at once, or 3/16 of an inch all at once. It takes it a little bit at a time. But this is the edge that I talked about, hitting the surface of the wood with and then rolling. Hits the surface of the wood and then rolls down. So here, we'll try this again. I'm going to button the sleeve to my shirt so I don't have to live in fear of tearing it off and having my wife say, "What the hell are you doing to your clothes?" Anyway, so here we go. Okay, we're going to, better shot. Let's make sure you're in frame. You know, life's imperfect. That's good enough. I think you can see it. So I'm going to always lead a little bit. I don't start flat. I always start at a little bit of an angle. Not the angle that I'm going to finish at. No point. But I start pretty flat. I mean, pretty much closer to flat, but still at an angle. Not too much. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to be down like this and try to come back over. And now, this is the part that's hard, because I'm doing full cut, full blade. Ooh. You know, not to excuse myself, but in woodworking, with the hand tools, you get the get it done today depth of cut, and you get it the fancy depth of cut. And I frequently gravitate toward the let's just get it done. So I set the blade low. All right, feeling the edge. Well, that's almost down to a feather. Good. Call that good. All right. That is the other end. Now we'll do the running grain. Let's see how that comes out. All right. So, slightly different setup. I don't need to have a stock to keep me from splitting, so I don't need the scrap. Plane, same plane. That skewed iron, which made the end grain cut so smoothly, sometimes gives you fits if the grain's running the wrong way. This one, if you heard me say previously, I think is going to work out. We'll see. So it's much the same. You don't start flat, and you don't start at full angle. You start, you know, somewhere between. And hold in, because I want it as hard as possible against this line. And the nice thing about it is if you do it right, there's virtually no way that you can cut in too far. That's how, that's how this plane works. This is how we've used it. Don't start like that, because if I started it with it flat, by the time I've rolled down, I've changed the hypotenuse of that angle, and I'll have a series of little steps. Not good. That's why I start with a little bit of an angle and follow that. I'm having a little bit of tear out right here. Hopefully that's not going to continue. Okay, that's a little twisting here. Excuse me. What do I need to do? Get closer to cut down on the angle and clamp tighter. All right. These are the heavy cuts now. I'm cutting the full width of the blade. And we're stopping. Okay, I think we're clamped down better and reset. And now we'll back at this. Oh yeah, I love that. Ooh boy. I do think I've got this set a little deep, but I'm sure you get the idea. Now the thing to watch for is to watch for this angle right here to go from this corner to that point, and similarly from this corner to that point. That means I've at least got the same bevel on both the ends and the side. And one more pass. One more pass. That's it. That's just beautiful. We'll swing it around. We'll do the other side. And this has got some blue stain. We've got no idea what that's going to turn into. Hopefully it'll work. I should do this again. This is set way too deep. I must have been using some pretty fresh wood before the last time I used it. There. All right, done. Done. Great stuff. Panel plane. Can't beat it.